Radha Radhe. Today is Saturday, 27th June 2026, and here we are to present you with this recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session. Along with me, here is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
I'll bring up the screen and we'll take a look at the cover slide as we continue along our journey of chapter 13. So we covered chapter 13, verses 29 and 30 today. After the usual recap quiz for last week's content, chapter 13, verses 27 and 28. As always, if you look at the description for the video, you can get a link to the free community portal page where all these slides, such as the quiz questions, etc., are available, and much additional material as well for your reference. So with that, let us get into today's first verse, chapter 13, verse 29.
Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishvaram nahi nastyatmana atmanam tato yati param gatim.
Chapter 13, verse 29. The catchphrase is a question as well as includes a pun and a homophone. Idle mind. Here it's spelled as IDOL because IDLE, idle mind, the phrase we are familiar with, makes us very likely think about idle mind is the devil's workshop. We don't want to be in that situation. We want to be in the opposite, in fact. We don't want to have our mind or get degraded by our mind, as Sri Krishna says in this verse. Therefore, we aim towards the spiritual, towards the supreme, idol, worship, supreme spirituality aimed in the direction of God, God being our supreme idol. So, idle mind, with that spelling and pun here, as the question for this catchphrase. As Sri Krishna says, that those who can see God as the supreme soul, present everywhere and in all living beings, and in fact, equally present, is fully, completely present in everyone, everything, then those people do not degrade themselves by the mind, which Swamiji explains. And as a great outcome, they actually reach the supreme destination, they attain God. So, as we discussed in the session as well, we've talked a lot about the mind and the importance of mind versus intellect, thoughts versus discernment. Here, Swamiji is reminding us again that as we get more and more connected towards the material side of things, then we go deeper. There's a downslide. We are actually degrading ourselves by our mind. And in contrast, that's actually happening because of the inclinations or the tendencies of the mind. But another word, another meaning for inclination, or if you say at least incline, is we want to elevate ourselves. So instead of degrading by the mind, let's incline ourselves. We elevate ourselves through spirituality. And the way, of course, that happens is by nourishing, as often Mummy Swamiji mentioned, giving the right food, the right knowledge to our intellect. If we do that, then we can truly learn with practice to see God present in everyone, in everything. We don't get too attached to somebody who's extra nice to us. Likewise, we don't have hatred towards someone who has been rude or evil to us. Again, all that comes with a lot of practice, but if we start seeing everyone in God, then we can build that tolerance as well, as we had discussed in the session. And as Swamiji says over here, we mentioned in the session as well, reminded of, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., the humanly created distinctions of nationality, creed, caste, sex, status, and color all become irrelevant. Therefore, of course, we see God in all living beings, and we finally reach the supreme goal. Next up, let us take a look at chapter 13, verse 30.
Prakritev cha karmani kriyamani sarvashah yah pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati.
Chapter 13, verse 30 here has the catchphrase unveiled vision. It would have been alliteration if it was veiled vision, but here we're actually learning about perfect vision or that full clarity of sight, unveiled vision. And that is because Sri Krishna is telling us that it's only those people who truly see if they understand that all actions of the body are being performed by material nature. whereas the soul itself, the embodied soul in that body, does nothing. We've seen this many times before. Way back in chapter 3, we've seen several examples that Swamiji has given. We've talked at length about the chariot example. We've seen the example Swamiji gives of a driver, driving a bus or a vehicle. All the responsibility, nevertheless, lies with the soul. Here he gives an example of a president taking a country to war. And of course, the fighting is not done by the president, but the responsibility still lies with the president. So, different examples to help illustrate that the soul is doing nothing, the body is the one performing tasks and activities. And those are actually being done by material nature. In fact, we've seen way before they're being done by the three gunas. They're enacted by those three modes of material nature. So Swamiji quotes from the Tantra Bhagavat that it's this ego of, being the body, the pride of being the doer, that is what traps us in this cycle of life and death. And then he concludes, of course, by giving the example of Lord Ram. As we had said in the session, Lord Ram also had a guru. He went to school, he went to the Gurukul. Lord Krishna also had a guru, a preceptor. They did that for our benefit. So here, Maharishi Vashisht had instructed Ram, you do work, whatever you're doing externally, show that you are the one, and as if the results depend upon you. But internally, understand and recognize that you are the non-doer. We gave the example in the session of the Govardhan Leela as well, as I had mentioned. Everyone, all the villagers trying to hold up the mountain, the hill with their sticks and other, tools or equipment, thinking they're the ones making it all happen, but not recognizing in that Leela that God was actually the one who was doing everything. God is the supreme soul. Here again, the evolution is, okay, I'm putting in my effort, I'm helping lift something or solve a challenge, but as a soul, I'm doing nothing. Outwardly, I'm displaying that, yes, the body is doing work, but that is again by the material nature. As we saw with the flyer, if you remember, literally see site, we were in this optician or ophthalmologist's office, and you can see the patient going through the eye test. The question here on this tablet, if you see on the bottom left, is what must you recognize to fully correct your vision? So, to unveil your vision, to have that perfect vision, we recognize now, Sri Krishna has told us that all the actions here for the body are being done by material nature. And in fact, we have our three types of friends here, if we call them, these cute gunas, right? The three different colors, the three different types that they make us work with and emote with. They're the ones helping the ophthalmologist to do the eye testing, the patient respond and look at the letters, etc. Inside the patients, if you look, the soul represented there, it's calm, it's still, it's meant to be meditative or equanimous. And the soul is recognizing that it is the non-doer. Everything is enacted for the body, through the body, by material nature. Bhumi, I'll pass it over to you to enlighten us on these two verses as well.
Thank you, Gagan. So from verse 29, let's look at the word samavasthitam. Samavasthitam means equally present. And from verse 30, we look at the word prakritya, that means by material nature, and another word akartaram. Akartaram means actionless. So now, putting the two verses together, what Krishna is telling us that samavasthitam, those who see God as the supreme soul equally present, okay, in everyone, moving, non-moving, in everyone. If we start looking with that healthy vision, then what happens? Our urge to harm, judge, or to dominate, that urge starts dissolving. And then it naturally gets replaced by respect, compassion, and equanimity, right? Because this verse is bridging the gap between the spiritual understanding and the practical life. Then, so our vision is extending deeper. We are understanding the constant presence of divinity that pervades every living entity. And when we start seeing with this clarity, then the distinctions based on outer characteristics, they start fading away. This is what Krishna is teaching us. So we have to understand that there is a shared essence beneath all diversity. In other words, we are all same, because that supreme soul is pervading everyone. So it starts transforming how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. And then it ushers us into a sense of unity and belonging. You know, one world, one family. Okay. That is how we start seeing everybody as same, and then in our behavior, it is, I have self, I have that true essence, supreme soul, and the other person also has that supreme soul. So now this supreme soul will not torture the other supreme soul. Okay, we'll stop having this feeling that person is other. No, we'll start seeing here also it is supreme soul, there also it is supreme soul. So automatically we'll understand that it is a sacred thing that we all are sharing. So our that behavior will start changing, because now we are recognizing the omnipresence of God in everything. And in verse number 30, what Krishna is saying, that everything we do, it is being done by the material nature. That soul doesn't do anything. That our individual soul is also silently witnessing what our body mind is doing. Okay, so it is just the role of prakriti, the nature. Okay, all our thoughts, feelings, action. But the role of the soul is that soul is inherently passive and it is actionless. It is just silently witnessing all the activities. So the illusion of doership, when does this happen? We think that our body, we are doing everything. Our ego thinks we are doing everything. We are performing all actions. When this false sense of doership goes away, then only we have the real wisdom. Otherwise, this false sense of doership, it binds that soul, poor soul who has not done anything. It binds that poor soul to the cycle of karma. Now, Krishna is saying that we have to become a person who is realizing that body works by itself because of the gunas, and soul remains untouched. That is the real wisdom, and that will take us to liberation. Swamiji has given us examples from Tantra Bhagavad that says, Ahankarat tu samsaro bhaved jivasya na swataha. Okay, that means the ego of being the body and pride of being the doer, that trap the soul in the samsara of life and death. And also, Swamiji has given this example when Guru Vashisht was teaching Bhagavan Ram. This is the main thing he taught him, and it is from Yog Vashisht. What did he say? He said, Karta Bahir Kartantar Loke Vihara Raghav, O Ram. In this world, when you are doing things outwardly, you think that you are doing and you must put in your best effort, so because the results depend upon you. But internally, be surrendered, be in samarpan to God, because kill your ego away and realize that you are not the non-doer, you are not the doer. So we have to give up our doership and elevate our mind, you know thinking that that supreme soul is pervading all over, and we give our intellect the right wisdom that we are not the doer, and we are always surrendered to God, who is the supreme soul taking care of everything. Over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Mummy. Yeah, some useful phrases that you mentioned to help everyone remember this as well. So, shared essence, one world, one family, illusion of doership. So, plenty that everyone can add to their notes and so on. Well, we look forward to meeting after a little bit of a gap because there's plenty happening the next couple of weeks, as you all are aware, with the Pran Pratishtha of Lord Balaji Sri Venkateshwara at the Radha Krishna Temple of Dallas in Allen, followed, of course, or alongside with family camp as well. So enjoy the most of the spiritual festivities and the elevation that it brings. And we'll see you on Saturday, 18th July, 2026. That's 8 a.m. Central Time, 6:30 p.m. India time. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.